morning. Sorry, I'm finishing my breath mint. Laoshi Lawrence McElroy here for Water Tiger School, and our Monday live session in this time of being home alone together. So it's for everyone. It's on our Facebook page. But when we started doing this back at the end of March for our suspended Taiji program at Sachem Library in Holbrook, New York, on the Isle of Length in New York State. So I'm going to talk for a little while until somebody says hi and make sure that the audio is working as well as the video. This week we had some audio issues last week. I ran a check before last week's installment and everything was fine. But went live and it sort of crashed and burned. So I didn't even do the check this week. And we'll see how things go, and hopefully somebody will join me at some point and tell me, yes, we can hear you as well as see you. So anyway, I'll talk about some other things instead of just sort of filling time. One, like my shirt. This is the 2012 World Tai Chi and Qigong Day t-shirt. It's the last one in this old design. After 2012, it got cleaner than that. So, and I have quite a collection of annual World Tai Chi and Qigong Day t-shirts. I started, my first one was in 2007, and I have almost every shirt since 2007. The reason that it's almost was that the 2015 t-shirt was reissued in 2018, I believe, and I didn't buy a second one. So, anywho, little World Tai Chi Day stuff. Some other news. Now, this impacts the studio program only, the actual studio program in East Patchogue on Long Island. And that is, we currently have a target date based on the 4-phase opening of New York State Forward. And we are, at this time, hoping to be able to be live in the studio once again, beginning in early July. We're aiming for July 9th, but we're not making any promises because it's all up to everyone to keep the curve down to allow us to move into phase 4 in a timely fashion. So there's that. Still waiting for somebody to say something so I know if I'm being heard. But anyway, so there's that. The other thing, we had an interesting realization, I guess, not made, an interesting realization over the weekend. As many of you know, we've been posting or reposting or sharing, whatever the right word is, the Tony Horton live sessions. It's what he's been doing for Home Alone. There have been plyo sessions, there have been yoga sessions, there have been what he calls a dance party. And listening to his end of yoga session chat on Saturday, it was pointed out to us that we can download these live videos and share them on our YouTube page. So we started the YouTube channel because we know that folks can't see these on Facebook because there are some people in our programs that I'm just checking to see if anybody's said anything yet. I don't see anything. So again, I hope people can hear me. Give me a heads up, tell me my voice is coming through, something. But anyway, so in making that discovery, we're going to sort of pull back on the original content for the YouTube channel. We're going to start sharing these in the order in which they were presented on Facebook, on our YouTube channel on a weekly basis for those folks who can't access Facebook. But there'll still be some original content. So I'm going to give up because nobody's saying anything. So I'm hoping that everything is fine. We're going to get to the meat of what we're going to do today. We're going to start with a little warm-up. The warm-up's going to be from the 9 temple exercises. It's one of those that are sort of like, oh God, we're doing the 9 temple exercises. That means we're doing, wait for it, polish the mirror, or polishing the mirror, or washing the walls. It's a great whole body warm up because it gets the legs going, it gets the arms going. It's designed specifically to work the lower back, the thighs, the knees, especially the back of the knees. Activates, cultivates, invigorates qi in the lower back, in the kidney area, in the hu yin around the perineum, the base of the pelvic bowl. And also, because part of this is the reality of the hands on the mirror and I'm going to turn sideways for a moment, the opening and closing of the wrists as you're polishing the mirror or washing the walls, opens up the acupuncture points in the wrists. It also then helps us to better cultivate our awareness of our body in space and our body in motion. So we're going to talk about that a little bit as we get into that. And after that, we're going to play. Okay, I got a hi. So good morning, Colette. I guess that means that you can hear me. So great. Anywho, we're going to play a rocking exercise that was a staple for years in our, well, not a lot of years, but the last few years of our Tai Chi in the Park offering, our free offering in the park, called Ball Variations. It's going to demonstrate, it's going to let us experiment, explore, understand how we can start a journey in the same place and end up somewhere completely different. And that'll become clearer as we do the exercise. So anyway, I'm going to get up. I'm going to sort of check my screen here as far as if my marker's in the right spot, because I've set up a little bit differently this morning. Because, you know, sometimes the video disappears on my feed and I can't really see myself. Right now I can, so that's good. So anyway, polish the mirror. Some things to keep in mind, right? The surface of the mirror is very real. So what you may want to do is, you know, practice. I'm just going to see what this is. Loud and clear. Okay, cool. Thanks, Colette. Practice on a real surface. Now, this wall has some rough spots, so it may be a little bit, you know, the wrong surface to do. A while back in one of Mr. Horton's live sessions, dance party, he finished the end of the dance party with a mime lesson and talked about creating that sense memory. You know, if you're going to do the in the box thing, that you want to feel different surfaces. Glass is going to feel different than finished concrete, going to feel different than wood, going to feel different than stone, going to feel different than wallpaper. Can't believe I just lost what wallpaper was. But anyway, so you really have that reality of that feeling, and the wall is very real. We want to feel the pressure as we do these oval, circular, rounded kind of movements, sweeping to clean the mirror, because that is what's going to activate this area, and, you know, a little bit of the shoulders and the arms as well. So you want to establish that mirror. It's not polishing the floor ever. We're not in a dressing room. It's not polishing a mirror that goes on three sides. My palms are going to be facing you entirely. No matter how low I might get, my fingers are still up. The heels of my palms are still going to be down. So this doesn't happen. If you don't have the range of motion in the wrists to go that low and keep the palms flat against the wall, then your hands won't be able to go down as far. You need the wrist flexibility to be here. And see, you can see my palms are flat. Very, very important. So the other thing, we talked about this in last week's YouTube session on yoga for Tai Chi, and in presenting a chair from yoga, back straight from hips to shoulders. So as we do our squat, I'm not doing that. The back stays a launching ramp no matter how low I do or do not go. And that creates a little bit more pressure against the hands against the surface of the mirror. But I still want to feel that pressure even up here. I'm activating the arms isometrically, pressing the palms into the dusting rags into the surface of the mirror. Finally, we want to talk about the squat. Be very, very careful. Warning, Will Robinson, danger, danger, right? We talk about squatting a lot because we do different squats. We want the knees to track the same direction of the toes. So as I squat, if I'm a little less open in the quad area, means my toes are probably going to be forward. So my knees stay forward as I squat. But notice I'm not butt down pushing the knees out. I'm butt back. But the knees are pointed the same direction as the toes. The weight is in my heels, not in the balls of my feet. If my quad is a little bit more open, my toes will probably be pointed somewhere out. And as I squat, again, same thing. My butt's going to be going back, not straight down. Weight's in the heels. And my knees are angled the same direction as my toes. So be very, very careful, because if your toes are out and your knees are forward, or your toes are forward and your knees are out, the weight's in the balls of the feet. If you're squatting and dropping the butt right straight down and the knees are moving forward, all of those things will lead to issues with your knees, which you do not want. And as I said, this exercise, polishing the mirror, benefits the knees. So embrace the exercise for its benefit, not its danger. Wow, that was pretty good. I'll have to remember that one. So we're only going to do 6 repetitions of this, but we're going to go in 2 directions. We're going to start down along the outside of the mirror and up the center. And after 6 of those, we're going to drop down the center and come up around. Normally, formally, this is done with 12 repetitions. It can be done at various paces. Quicker is easier than slower. So we're going to have sort of a moderate pace, I feel. I don't know. But you'll notice I'm going to be working here. I'm even just doing this little demonstration and squatting down. My breath got going, my heart got going, because whenever we squat, as I have often said, as is often talked about on the mat and in the room and now remotely, whenever you're squatting, you're working a big group of muscles here. The heart and the lungs have to work harder. So you get a little cardiovascular with this particular temple exercise as well. So again, 6 repetitions, 2 directions. Breathe when you have to, but we can suggest a breath pattern here. And that is an exhalation on the way down and an inhalation on the way up. Doesn't matter if you're dropping down on the inside of the mirror and up on the outside. The squat, ideally, is done on an exhalation and coming up out of the squat on an inhale. So feel the rags against the surface of the mirror. Feel the surface of the mirror and its solidity, right? None of this, none of that, matrix reaching in the liquid mirror thing and then getting swallowed by silver. And breathe and probably find an inhalation, and we're going to go down once and come up and down twice and come up at a range that works for you. 3, I'll do something a little bit shorter. 4, go back. 5, last one in the first direction. 6, now down the front. Still maybe an exhalation down, an inhalation up. Going to count down this time. That was 6. Here's 5. Here's 4. Here's 3. Here's 2. And here's 1. And bring the hands in and down. Heart's going a little pitter-pat. So there you go. Polish the mirror. There's our warm-up. So the name of this exercise is ball variations. It's what I refer to as a rocking exercise. Because once we get in our stance, we're going to stay in the stance We're going to rock back. We're going to rock forward. There are 3 postures. All of them start with holding the ball. So just as any other time we talk about the ball, if we're doing the rails and rotating the ball in any of our forms in that point, and for all 3 of these postures, the ball is the size of our torso. So you don't have to scan this image of me, measure the distance between my hands, and then put your hands at the same distance, because this is my torso, right? This is right at about shoulder height, right? I can be a little bit above that, a little bit below that, sort of into the upper chest. But if I get into the center of the chest, the upper hand is too low. The lower hand, more or less, where the arm is rounded, like it's embracing a ball, where the palm is, for most people, are going to hit right around pubic bone level. And sort of the same thing. If you have a little bit longer arm and it's still rounded, it may be a little bit closer to the Hu Yin heights, or even into the very tops of the thighs. Probably not, unless you really, really have long arms and a really short torso, you're not going to be mid-thigh or anything. Right? And it can come up a little bit, but once you start to get to sort of Dantian-ish, lower Dantian-ish level, acupuncture point level, that's too high, right? Too much of a compressed ball. The ball should be the size of your torso. Notice at top, the arm is angled, rounded out, right? It's not out this way, definitely not up, right? This is a box. We're holding a ball, not a box. The forearm is resting against the surface of the ball that we hold. When we are back on our right foot, the right hand's the top of the ball. When we're back on the left foot, the left hand's the top of the ball. So that's the beginning of each posture of the 3 in ball variations. The ends of postures are much different, more or less. The 3 postures in sequence: parting the wild horse's mane, ward off, and fair lady weaves at shuttles, or fair lady works shuttles, or fair lady works at shuttles, all sorts of different names. So basic upper body, end of posture position for parting the wild horse's mane. If I'm moving in from my right side, the left hand's going to be right palm, center of the palm, center of the chest. I'm not out too far. I'm not in too close. Just right, just like porridge. Right, boom. Or just the right amount of firmness on a mattress, or, what's the other one? The chair. Not too hard, not too soft, but just right. Boom. That Goldilocks principle. The other hand, in this case, if I'm coming from the right hand, palm down. Notice, arm is elongated here, not too much activity in the elbow joint. Palm is in a downward position. Doesn't have to be parallel. That can be tweaky on people's wrists who don't have their wrist flexibility developed. So find a point where the palm is down-ish to parallel. Sort of like you're dribbling a basketball. Sort of, if you've ever done a closing movement with Water Tiger School, or a walking exercise where we float the palms, it's really in that same position. And then I'm not holding it anywhere. I'm just, the activation of the wrist sort of pulls that hand forward because of the activation in the wrist and then the way that it transfers up the arm. So that's parting the wild horse's mane, upper body, end of posture, coming from the right side into a left four stance. Notice it's the left hand that's up in this instance. Coming from the left side, left hand's the top of the ball, right hand's the bottom. The end of posture, same, right hand, right center of the chest, left hand's dribbling the basketball. So that's the end of posture for parting the wild horse's mane. For ward off, again, coming from the ball, right hand's the top of the ball, left hand's the bottom. At the end of posture, notice it sort of looks like a frisbee throw. Now, my elbow isn't right straight down. It's also not out into the side. It's sort of in between. It's like that plumb line is on the inside of the elbow, just lightly pulling it down. My fingertips are pointing in the direction I'm facing, more or less, but my palm is angled slightly in because my arm is bowed here, a little bit out is in the rounding. But the emphasis is the energy extending forward in this way to the fingertips. right? Where is it here? It's somewhere different. Here, it's somewhere different. The right hand that was at the top of the ball has a very interesting journey to get there, but ends with the fingertips pointed toward the crook of the elbow. Right? So I'm in this position. And notice the height, right? And the angle, right? I'm not sharp in that arm angle, not straight. I'm in between, just right. Fingertips even with the top of the shoulder. So if I were to grab, I'm going to grab something different. I've been grabbing the regular staffs. I like this. It's a bamboo decorative staff. Right, notice, the camera angle makes this look a little funky, but it's parallel to the ground. Fingertips to shoulder, same height. I also like it because it adds a little color. It's red, it's a deep red color. Boom. So that's coming into a left fourth stance. Right fourth stance is just a mirror image. And again, angled, bowed, not down, not out, comfortably in between. Shoulders not up. Palm angled slightly in, but fingertips pointing the direction I'm facing. Other hand pointing to the crook of the elbow. Not the lazy version resting the hand, which is almost an obscene gesture. Boom. And that's the end of Water Tiger's ward off, the first of the 4 postures of the sequence we call Grasp Sparrow's Tail. The end of posture for Fair Lady, Weaves at Shuttles, is the hand that was at the bottom of the ball is up and out. And a little bit, I sort of twist the torso just a little bit beyond full front. So I'm angled just slightly to the side. And the right hand, again, an interesting journey to get there, now is striking. A lot of people do this and they do it here. We come just a little bit past the center line. And notice, if you will, it is as if the hands, the upper body is in a sphere. And I'm pressing the palms in equivalent position based on the size of my sphere in which my upper body is located. A lot of times when I'm teaching somebody this, I'll pull out an image of Peter Gabriel in concerts a few years ago. He'd do this song. Can't remember which one it is now. I think I know that it was the Growing Up Live tour, but maybe it was Growing Up. No? Well, could have been. But anyway, he was in this big plastic bubble and was like bouncing all over the place. And that was whole body. So that's sort of a different orientation than this, because notice if I keep the same roundness, that bubble's only going to come into here. A bubble that fills my whole body, I have to be doing like this. And that takes us out of structure. So boom, this is coming from the right back stance into a left fourth stance. And this is the end of Fair Lady for Water Tiger School in a right fourth stance. So the left arm is blocking up, which is different than this and this, much different in tense. The left hand in this instance is striking, which is much different than this in Parting the Wild Horse's mane, or this in ward off. Boom. So that's the upper body of each of the 3 postures. The lower body is a rocking exercise in our standard fourth stance. So our fourth stance, feet are shoulder wide, determined by where the heels are, right? Not toes in, not toes out. Right? Well, if I turned on my heels, let me rephrase that. If I turned on my heels, my toes are in, I'm still shoulder wide. If I turn on my heels and my toes are out, my heels are still at my shoulder width, so I'm still shoulder wide. Were I to turn on the balls of the feet, now I'm not. My heels are too close together. Now I'm not. My heels are too far apart. So we have that width. Now for us, a left fourth stance is when the left foot is forward. I'm going to turn that right foot out to the 45. Around there, right? Some people may be a little bit inside, for others maybe a little bit outside, but be careful with that. Find the right place for you. 45 is ideal, but we give you options. So enough weight in that foot to step the left foot forward. But notice what I did. Right straight from where it is. If I had a line taped here, or if you could see the little diamonds on this exercise mat, I'm staying on that same row of diamonds. Back stance. I got about 60, 70% of the weight on the back leg. I can bring the ball of the foot with me if I want to, the front foot. Right? And I'm turned. Toes, knee, belly button, nose, all ideally facing that direction. Of course, you'll be looking at me. I'll probably be looking toward you. I won't be looking at you. I can't do that in this venue, in this modality, whatever, this app. Turning forward, now I get about 60, 70% of the weight on the front leg, about 30, 40% of the weight on the back. My hips, my shoulders square most of the time. For fair lady, I'm just going to have a little bit more twist, not in the hips. My hips will end square, but I'm going to be twisting in a left forward stance, the left shoulder just a little bit farther back, right shoulder a little bit farther forward. Right? And in that forward stance position, knee over ankle is safest. Knee over the top of the foot is okay. Once you get into the realm of knee over toes or beyond toes, that ain't good. Right? The other thing, especially if you're bringing your toes up off the ground, when you rock forward, make sure your toes end forward. They can also end inward toward your center line. Where you don't want them to end is outward away from your center line as you're moving into forward stance. So the rocking part of this, you rock back, maybe bring the ball of the foot with you, and you rock forward. And you rock back, and you rock forward. And you rock back, and you rock forward. And that's our 3 rocks, but you can keep going, right? You can repeat. This would be horse's mane. And back into forming the ball, and this would be ward off. And back into forming the ball, and this would be fair lady. So that's the lower body. The other side, just the same, right? We don't take a step or anything here in this exercise. We might be taking steps next week. We've got a whole bunch of stuff. We've got a whole bunch of stuff in queue, and one of them is a Taiji walk exercise that some of you have never done before. Turn the left foot out to around a 45. I'm sure some of you haven't done this before if you weren't participants in Taiji in the park in its final years. Same thing. Foot around the 45, and it may be different on the left side than it is on the right. It can be for me because I have all that metal in my left ankle and upper foot, but still hips square, right? I'm not here. I'm not turning back toward the back foot. I'm not bringing the opposite hip any more forward, even in fair lady. This is my end point. Knee over ankle, safest, right? And rocking back and forward and back and forward. And notice, right, if I just let the arms dangle here, they're being moved. I'm going to go more than 3 here. Just swinging lightly because of this turn and twist in the torso. So that movement in the core can move the arms for us. We just need to know what that pattern is and what the intent is. So that's the lower body. Putting the upper body and the lower body together might be a little bit more intense, a little bit more confusing. By the way, favorite Confucian saying, confusion is the first step to the realization that we still have much to learn. So turn that right foot out to around a 45. Well, the cats aren't here and I still have cat fur on my foot. Stepping the left foot forward. So when I rock back into that right foot, the right hand's the top of the ball. The left hand's the bottom. So I turn forward into parting the wild horse's mane. This is actually serving as a block, taking a punch, rounding it down and away. This is coming up in the space between where that punch was coming in and pressing into the torso of the opponent. Notice here, end, not up, slightly down, boom. So going back to hold the ball and doing the same posture, fingertips very close together, and boom. And that's parting the wild horse's mane. One more time with horse's mane. Back, elbow down, shoulder dropped and relaxed, chest sunk, back rounded, fingertips together, boom. That press, right? If I put this leg in the right spot, blocking, coming into the torso, I'm creating a bench over which I can throw the other person. Boom, coming back now, ward off. I mentioned this is sort of like throwing a frisbee. One of our favorite stories with Ward Off comes from the particular program participants for which this live session is always presented, and that's from Sachem Public Library. Somebody was wintering in Florida, came back from their winter snowbirding, and said, you know, grandkids came down and visited, and they asked me one afternoon, my grandson asked me one afternoon, it's like, Grandma, will you throw the Frisbee with us? Grandma was like, I don't know how to throw a Frisbee. Yes, you do. I've seen you do your Tai Chi. Boom. He had no idea that Lao Shi uses that image, right? So that's the left hand from the bottom. Punch is coming in this way this time. I'm coming in underneath of it and sending it back that direction. This hand starts at the top of the ball. Now, a lot of people will just bring it in to there, which fundamentally makes sense because it's really there as a support hand in case I need a little oomph, a little bit more support, and actually do put the fingers there. Say the guy who's punching me is like Refrigerator Perry from back in the day. He was a big linebacker, if you don't know the name. I think it was, I don't know. He was a big football player. And somebody that size, though 4 ounces can move 1,000 pounds, I might need an extra ounce of that hand there to help reroute that punch, right? So that's really fundamentally the reason the right hand's there. Or in case something else comes in, I can block, or I can use it as a strike as I'm blocking, right? But what we do at Water Tiger School to play with that idea that different parts of the body can begin in a similar space, have to travel different distances, and still end together. So sort of the gears going in different speeds in the clock, we do throw the Frisbee and then underhand pitch, and it comes around and ends there. Boom. So it's sort of blocking something else with the back of the hand, maybe a block here sweeping in and into that position. So Ward Off from holding the ball comes into this position. So from here to here, from here to here, and that's Ward Off. So parting the wild horse's mane, and back, and Ward Off, and back. Fair Lady, not quite Frisbee-ish, but almost the same pattern, coming across and blocking. Punch is again coming in from this side. I'm coming in underneath that punch and deflecting it out and to the side, turning my opponent this direction. And this hand starts on a pitch, but then becomes a whip and in to strike, which is taking that turn and rise up of that punch and striking into their ribcage. So from here to there, from here to there. I'm a little jerky with that. Let's flow a little bit. There we go. I was sort of emphasizing that whip in the strike. Boom. So I'm coming underneath, deflecting up into the side and strike. Lost a little bit of my whip that time. Boom. So parting wild horse's mane, back, Ward Off, back, Fair Lady weaves and shuffles, back. And though both hands are pushing the palms and settling the wrists here, this one is doing so as a block. So the emphasis isn't into the palm of the hand and the wrist as much as it is the surface creating the sticky energy and protecting the soft underbelly of the forearm from the point where you're rolling into the forearm from that arm. This one, however, that penetrating strike. Now, the thing about an open hand strike is I can penetrate, I can use pushing energy and shatter those ribs, or I can deflect the punch and shove them. because it's an open hand. If you close your fist, you have to penetrate or you break your hand. So those three on this side, parting wild horse's mane, like a balloon, expanding, deflecting down. You have pushing the palm, settling the wrist. This way, you have that folding of the wrist slightly in. This way, as you prepare that arm to press into the opponent. Up, deflection, catching, throwing back, coming in. Back, blocking, whip, strike. More time, parting the wild horse's mane, fingertips close together. There's the end point, forward, ward off, back, whip. One more time. I was going to close. Parting the wild horse's mane, and back, ward off, and back, and fair lady weaves and shuttles. And a little casual closing. I'm going to bring the back foot forward, settle in, and just going to see if a question popped up. I see stuff is appearing in the feed, so you can take a little break. Just a fact I like to review. Oops, I scrolled my picture up out of the frame. So the other side, and it's a morning, right? So four stance again, exactly the same, but a mirror reflection. So not exactly the same as a mirror reflection. There you go. Turn the left foot out to around a 45. And ankle's feeling pretty good. Right now, we'll see how it goes as the exercise. I might end the exercise and the foot will have shifted on all on its own. That happens after time. Right, so my four stance, hips are square, shoulders are square for all but that little additional twist in the torso, not the hips, for our end of Fair Lady. Not going to do the shift break, a complete breakdown. I'm just going to do the sequence a few times through. So back, and now notice, right? I'm in the left foot. Gee, I wonder which hand is the top of the ball. Oh, must be the left hand. And elbow down. This can happen a lot. We also have that tendency to compress this ball. The ball the size of the torso in our approach is the most natural way to get through the sequence without having to add extra movement to the arms and the hands. Not necessarily that you couldn't have extra movement and have it connected through the whole body. It's just that it's not necessary in this instance. So forming the ball, coming forward again, fingertips close together. If it helps when you're first doing parting the wild horse's mane to literally brush the fingertips together, that's okay. But very close together helps get the posture to the end position. If I have a lot of distance between my hands, I can end in something more. This is sort of going in the direction of yet another beginning with the ball and ending diagonal flying. It was a very bad diagonal flying. Right? So close together. One of the possible translations of the name of parting wild horse's mane is shearing horse's mane. And I use that particular translation to point out, how do shears work? How do scissors work? The blades have to pass very close together. If they're separate, they won't cut anything. So the hands sort of are the two blades of the scissors coming close together to create that cut. Another is wild horse shears or wild horse parts mane. So the wild horse is doing it itself, and it's that whip. If you've ever seen a horse that's being bothered by flies and the way they whip their head to create that, shall we say, incentive for the flies to go elsewhere, that's sort of the intent. Well, it's not sort of the intent. It's the basic martial application of this movement. So ward off really represents bouncing energy. So I'm taking on this side the punch that's coming in this way. Like on this side, for parting wild horse's mane, the punch is coming in there. I'm directing the punch down, striking up. This time the punch is coming in this way. I'm taking the energy of that punch, the energy of my body, and bouncing it in that direction. Ward off. Punch is going to come in from the same side. Going to come in underneath of it. fluct it up into the side and strike in underneath it. Notice those hands are pretty close together. Oops, sorry. Parting the wild horse's mane. Back. Ward off, big underhand pitch. And back. Starting as an underhand pitch, becoming a whip strike, right? I'm not doing this. There's not a lot of space there. And each one of these, too. Right? Parting the wild horse's mane, driving down and back into the heel of the back foot. Coming back, driving down and into the back heel. And coming back. And driving down and into the back heel. And start to explore, for those of you who have been doing this for a while, how yes, the back heel is driven down and back in each of these postures, though the upper body is different. However, the way that feels based on what the upper body is doing is a little bit different with how the nail points themselves in the heel are being activated. Ward off, back, Fair Lady weaves, it shuttles, and back. One more time. This, by the way, for Water Tiger School is a right four stance because we end each posture weighting the right foot forward. Other people would say this is a right four or left four stance. I'm going to come back this time because the starting point is the weight in the left foot. So in back stance here, I'm left oriented. So some people will say, even though I finish in a right four stance, I started with the majority of the weight in the left foot. So to them, this is a left four stance. To us, we gauge it on the end, not the beginning. So, and of course, there is really no end because we keep going. So there you go. Ball variations. You can use it to explore how the different kinds of intent, this extension, this bounce back, this throw in that direction is much different than that press, and can be quite penetrating or just pressing energy into the surface of the opponent here as compared to the block with this hand and the strike here. So very different, not only physically, not only externally getting to a different point from the same beginning point, but each ends internally differently as well, different intents and different tracks for both hands, not just what you might call the primary hand, but both hands get in differently. And especially the difference that, you have two more or less that not only start in the ball, but start with the underhand pitch. And one has a complete follow through in the underhand pitch. And the other one has an underhand pitch that becomes something else. So the three postures: parting wild horse's mane, ward off from the grass sparrow's tail sequence in Water Tiger School's lineage, and Fair Lady weaves at shuttles as ball variations, as a rocking exercise. It's really important, if you're in, especially Water Tiger School program, to get the language right, because that way we have the ability to communicate what it is that we're doing, what it is with what we are playing, and that sort of thing. And if you call it something different, then sometimes it takes a while just to get on the same page. So, anywho, there you go. Where are we? Oh, wow. That was long. Wasn't as long as I thought it was going to be shorter than that. So, once again, I appreciate your time and attention. You're welcome, Colette. And I hope this was fun. I always hope that it's fun. I hope it's informative, that sort of thing. Keep in mind the news. Last week we talked about that Sachem Public Library had let me know that they were they had extended their cancellation of public programs through August. So we will keep these live sessions going and till further notice, just like the library is closed until further notice. So at this point, at least through August. If they extend things into September, they'll keep going. Even though we're sort of backing away from original content on the YouTube channel, if you weren't here at the beginning of the live session, we got, let's just say, somebody said something in a Facebook live session. Well, it was Tony Horton, and we realized, hey, we can download these live sessions and post them on our YouTube channel. We don't have to keep coming up with original content, because the YouTube channel was established for those people, who were in, not only the suspended Sachem Public Library program, but the West Babylon Public Library as well, who might not be on Facebook. So they haven't seen these sessions. But we're still going to sprinkle that in with some original content. Have a short little video on cue for this week that we're going to do, as well as post our first Sachem live session on the YouTube channel as this week unfolds, maybe even as today unfolds. So there's that. Also, we mentioned at this time, we're hoping that we'll be able to go live, see people in 3D once again, in the studio, on the mat, in the studio. This is it. This is my business. This is Water Tiger School alone. Has nothing to do with when the libraries may or may not open or are allowed to make the decision. This is my decision in conjunction with 4GK Martial Arts, that if phase 4 unfolds on schedule, we should be able to be in the studio again, starting on Thursday, July 9th. That's the studio program of Water Tiger School. That's not the Sachem Public Library program. It's not the West Babylon Public Library program. They have to do what's right for them. We have to do what's right for us. So that may change between now and then. Nothing's firm. So we will see. And let's see, there is something. Oh, yes. If you are following us here and have been part of the Sachem program, or for that matter, the West Babylon program, and you haven't taken advantage of the fact that we're doing remote stuff for them now too on Tuesday mornings at 10:15. So there's no Facebook live session on Tuesdays at 10:15. There is something that I think you would find of benefit, but you have to ask me for it. So not in the comment feed here, but drop a line through Facebook. If you haven't already been told that there's something out there for you, if you haven't already taken advantage of that, and a lot of people have, then reach out via, this page on Facebook messaging, the Laushi Lawrence McElroy page on Facebook messaging, or you should have from your last syllabus my direct contact information. You can text me. I can text you it's a link. I can text you a link, or drop me an email, and I can reply with the link that I'm offering you folks who have been in the room with me at Sachem Public Library and West Babylon Public Library. And I think that's about it. Can't think of anything else. So as you probably heard, current events wise, numbers are going up almost everywhere except New York. So this very slow, painfully slow in many ways, reopening is serving us and helping keep people alive. So let that be a guide. And the fact that, the state seems to be doing everything it can to make sure that the crisis is slowed down and eliminated. So, do what you've been doing, wash your hands. If you find yourself around people, I will admit, when I go out to the mail gazebo in our development and get the mail, I don't have my nose and my mouth covered, but I have my mask with me. And if anyone is in my pathway between here and the gazebo, my mask goes on and it stays on until I get back in the townhouse. So, wear a mask and keep physically distant from others when possible. And all those things will be part of our reopening in July if the studio does indeed reopen in July. So anyway, I'm just going to see if anybody else. Nope, nothing else. So thanks for joining me. Once again, we'll be here next Monday for something sort of different. Anyway, if we do what I think is the first step in the queue, It will involve the Tai Chi stance again, but as a walking exercise that many of you haven't done. But it might be something completely different. So anyway, thanks. And we'll talk to you next time.